Pineapple on pizza seems to be quite the controversial topic on the internet, but trust me when I say it is absolutely amazing, especially my take on a Hawaiian pizza. Hello everyone, Chef Eric here and welcome back to the YouTube channel for yet another amazing recipe. And for this week's edition, we're going to do a beautiful Hawaiian pizza. It's stuffed with pineapple and ham and cheese and a beautiful tomato sauce. And trust me, it'll blow away literally anybody. So we're gonna start by making our basic pizza dough. I do have a recipe for pizza dough that is on my channel, but I'll just take you guys through it one more time. But if you guys would like a more in-depth tutorial, I will leave a link in the description box down below or up in the corner as of now. So we're gonna start with some warm water, and you're gonna add in your sugar and your instant yeast and just give that a really good mix and set it aside. We don't want to bloom it or anything, we're just combining it so that everything has an easier time mixing all together. So we're going to start on our actual pizza dough. So we're going to start with some all-purpose flour and some salt and give everything a really good mix. And then we're going to create a well in the center of our pizza dough or in the center of our flour. You could totally do this on the countertop, but I decided to do it in a container. Add in your yeasty water mixture along with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then start to bring that together gently. So once it has formed one large cohesive mass, sorry for the big words, but once it has formed like a large ball, I think that's easier to understand, you want to tip it over onto your counter, and you want to knead this for about 10 to 15 minutes just until it's looking nice and smooth. Please take your time and please knead this as aggressively as possible so that you have a beautiful dough. If you do underknead this, you will have a really weird tasting pizza and it won't really rise properly because you didn't correctly knead it. And the ways to test if it's correctly kneaded: the first, it will form a nice round ball, and number 2, when you press onto the surface with your finger, it springs back up. Don't press it too hard, just lightly press onto it, and if it springs back to place, just know it is perfectly kneaded. Set it aside when you form it into a nice and round ball, and you want to add it back into our original container. Don't worry about the flour that's on the outside, that doesn't really matter. Add a little bit of olive oil and cover and let it rise for about 2 hours. Now, here's a little trick. We've all seen our US or Western creators using a pizza stone, but I came up with a solution for those who don't have a pizza stone. Take a chapati pan and then put it inside your oven about 30 minutes towards the end of your dough rising. So about at the 1.5 hour mark, place your pizza stone, quote unquote, or your chapati pan into the oven at the highest possible, at about 200 degrees Celsius, and just let that sit in there. In the meantime, we can work on our toppings. So first I did a tomato sauce, so I just combined a bit of tomato paste, some hot water and some oregano and give that a really good mix. It's a really super simple recipe. You don't have to bother with actually making a sauce. So set that aside, and by this time I hope you have chopped up your pineapples and your ham. For the pineapple, make sure you remove the core of it and then chop it up. I did about 1/4 of it. And then for the same, I used beef brawn and then just chop it up and set it aside. Now, we can work on our actual pizza dough. So once everything is nice and risen, you want to just add a bit of maize meal or ugali over onto your base of your counter. I kind of saw this as Domino's one day and I was like, wow, that was really creative. And I thought they wanted to give it a try for this recipe, and it turned out absolutely amazing. So dust a bit of maize meal and then separate your dough into 2 even pieces and then just form it into a nice round shaped balls. Now we're going to let it rise again. This recipe takes a bit of a while, but trust me, it is a labor of love. So just cover them and let them sit there for about half an hour, just until they get nice and risen so that they are much easier to work with. If you do end up rushing this step, you will have a really hard time forming your pizza shapes. So once it's nice and risen, you want to add a bit more maize meal along with a bit of flour. I just want to start to spread this out. You can use a rolling pin, of course, but I decided to be a little bit more traditional and go with my hands. So I started by taking one piece of dough and then creating dimples in the middle, and then took both of my hands and started to evenly spread it out. And I hope you guys can copy that motion. As you can see, just moving it round and round and round and round and round and round and round, just until you have a beautifully shaped pizza. Make sure you do end up creating a little bit of a crust over on the sides. It will happen automatically if you decide to go with the traditional method. I'm not saying you lift the pizza dough up and flip it around like some vintage Italian guy, but just move around with your hands. I do not suggest you use a rolling pin for this, but if you completely don't want to do this, just by all means use a rolling pin. Create a few dimples inside your pizza dough and it's done. You want to transfer this over onto some parchment paper or baking paper and then start to fully assemble. So we're gonna start at the base of our beautiful tomato sauce or tomato sauce in quotes, basically tomato paste and hot water. Just spread it down evenly until you have a nice and even layer. Once you have set that down, you wanna go over with the other ingredients. So the first being the mozzarella cheese. For this recipe, it will make 2 pizzas and you'll need 200 grams of mozzarella cheese, 100 grams for each pizza. They're not large pizzas, but they're amazing. So add over your grated cheese and then we can now go on with our toppings. So in this case, it's a Hawaiian pizza. So we're gonna go over with some pineapple and some ham slices. It is controversial, but it's amazing. But if you would like to add other toppings, by all means go ahead and do so. Some onions, beef, chicken, anything you have, or some veggies, it'll work perfectly fine. Top over with some more mozzarella cheese and then transfer it onto our pizza plate. Yeah, and the thing they used to transfer it from the board onto the pizza stone, or pizza stone in quotes. In this case, I just took a tray and then flipped it upside down and then used it. Trust me, you just need to be creative. Transfer your pizza onto your pizza stone and you're just gonna let it bake in the oven at about 200 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes, just until you have a beautiful golden brown color on the edges. Then the cheese is looking really nice and bubbly. Transfer it back onto your pizza slider thing, so in this case a tray, and then just set it down onto your counter and let it cool for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then you can slice into it. Please make sure you let it cool so that you can chop into it nicely and enjoy. I really hope you guys give this recipe a try, and if you do, make sure you tag me over on Instagram, Facebook or TikTok or wherever you're gonna be, and make sure you guys like and subscribe for more amazing content every single Monday, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on my really great recipes.